Hi, it's Kirby Summers, and I welcome you to my true crime channel. It is September 25th, and this is basically a preview of what's going on Patreon this week, what's going on over on Substack, and which basically examines the allegations that have been brought forth against Sean Combs, how it interconnects with the Epstein case, in turn with the Franklin case, in turn how it sort of has its roots historically. I provide receipts. Before I get started with a brief preview of what's going on, I'm going to ask you to please smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and so I think all of us know that Sean Combs has been big in the news recently. However, what I've noticed is as much coverage as it's getting, I want you to forgive my voice. I'm still dealing with some kind of issues that I've had for about 2 months. So I certainly hope I have not been poisoned as the allegations are against Kim Porter, who her memoir, dropped and it's being talked about. She believed that Sean Combs had her poisoned and murdered because she had seen similar things. What I've done is I have been working on, as you know, the Epstein case for over 5 years. It's led me into the Franklin case. It led me into some other things historically ever since I had my own issues in my life decades ago. Because when I began explaining to the world that I was an S-slave, no one understood what that word was. I didn't understand it. I knew it was different from being someone's significant other or somebody's so-called sidekick or whatever it is. But now that term has become mainstream and people are beginning to become much wiser than, let's say, even when the Epstein case hit the news back in 2019. So what I did was earlier on my Patreon, I uploaded a patron-only podcast, which delves into, let's say, how the Sean Combs case allows us to see, let's say, for example, allows us to understand why Courtney Love, who has been alleged to have done away with Kurt Cobain, how and why this, what is clear to almost everyone, is not a natural go to sleep forever time, why it has been ignored and not investigated further. And I show the correlation between, let's say, that case and other cases connected again to Clive Davis, connected to Harvey Weinstein, connected to Jeffrey Epstein, connected to Leslie Wexner, connected to Leon Black. I show how this stuff has its roots, and I explain very carefully how all of this is part of the same thing that's been happening from even before the time that we were born. So there is some, let's call it occult stuff involved, and I explained that. The patron-only podcast dropped, I believe, at 10:30, so about 2 hours ago. It answers a lot of questions, it raises a lot of questions, but I think it helps you to understand what's going on, because when I try to listen to other people talk about what's going on in the Combs case, for example, I'm hearing a lot of misinformation. People are misinterpreting certain things. And it's difficult to really follow this unless you're looking at not only the documentation, but unless you have a very firm grip on what's happened before in similar cases, right? So then on my Substack, by the way, I'm having a sale for anybody who's on my Substack, whether you're a paid subscriber or you're there for free. And I'll leave the links below. We're in the second day. It's a 48-hour sale on my book, Chasing Chandler. It's the second edition. I include new information. Of course, she was photographed with Sean Combs when she was 14. We all know the name Rachel Chandler. So what I've done is updated the book. It's the second edition. I've included additional information regarding Sean Combs, regarding the occult. And, you know, I go back into Rachel Chandler's family history. It is on sale only for another 24 hours. If you're not, you don't have to be a paying subscriber, but if you just go on over, become a member, you can click on the sale for subscribers on Substack, and you can benefit from this close to 25% off on this book, which I only sell via my website. So the other thing that I published recently was an article titled "Sell Your Soul to the Devil for Riches, but a Gatekeeper You Must Be." So I begin with the front page story that ran on July 29th, 1989 in the Washington Times, titled HOMOSEXUALPROSTITUTION Inquiry Ensnares VIPs with Reagan Bush. Okay. It was a newspaper article that basically showed up once, showing how CALL boys took midnight tours of the White House. So we know this to be the Franklin scandal, the Franklin cover-up. So I begin with Craig Spence, Larry King, and Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush and all of the people that were exposed at the time. However, I also include information that nobody includes when they're talking about Ronald Reagan, and that is Alfred Bloomingdale and Vicki Morgan and how that intersects with that. And then I show how that intersects with, let's say, the Jeffrey Epstein ring. And again, I show receipts because there are people who overlap. So I show a very good example of somebody who attended the parties of Spence and Larry King and were taking advantage of children that were trafficked, in addition to then being part of the Epstein, Maxwell, Leslie Wexner so-called ring. And this person shows up too. So I show you again with receipts. And then I go into how this connects to what's going on with Sean Combs. All right. And some people just, again, keep looking at things as if they are one-offs. And I try to explain it in a very cohesive manner, showing receipts, showing how while people do not want, or some people do not want to accept or acknowledge the occult aspect of these various trafficking branches, there is an aspect of the occult, and there are aspects, let's say, that are similar to Skull and Bones, where you keep an oath, you can't tell anyone anything, and if you do, well, you don't get to live very long. What we see now in the Sean Combs case is we are seeing more and more evidence of people who die suddenly of one mysterious thing or the other. So in that article, I explain what Combs is connected to, what Clive Davis is connected to, and by the way, it didn't just start, with Sean Combs. It began a long time ago, even before the days of Clive Davis. But Davis, I try to explain who he is on the level of and how he came into that position. And I know some people have been looking at my stuff because I have been talking about Davis for a long time and writing about him and basically just laying things out as if he created this. So I really try to go into history and explain how how it began, who's involved, what happens. So for example, if you are a member of a certain group, you get to turn around and ask somebody, even of a different nationality, even from a different power group, let's call them, they want to sleep with your young daughter, and you are allowed to do that in this secret world that suddenly we're having more insight as a result of Combs' investigation and what's going on. We have a little bit more insight. This said, I do encourage, if you are not going to come to my Substack and read what I'm working on, and you're not going to go on my Patreon, then you can't really just listen to YouTube videos for, quote, the latest news or who's going to be arrested and who's not. You really have to do the homework yourself. You have to read all of the court documents, and then you have to go back historically to similar lawsuits. You have to go back historically and look at what happened and who's connected to what, and how it's connected to intelligence, and how it's connected to the mob, and how these outfits work together. And you have to do your own analysis, which takes up every moment of my time, and it will take up every moment of your time. But you can't just go on what one podcaster or two podcasters are saying, because I am hearing things that give me a headache and I have to turn things off, because I notice that people are getting while they may have good intentions, they're just getting some information wrong. So that is my update for today. I'm going to ask you to please give this a like. It helps me build my platform here, and it helps me stay focused on doing the work and sharing it with you in a variety of ways. Okay, guys, have a good day. Bye.